I'm blue, da ba dee da ba die. If I had to pick a Game of Subs flavour to describe how I'm feeling after the Legends stage of IEM Rio, it would obviously have to be Blue Raz, wouldn't it? Because not only is it quite the wake-up call, but that stage blue, like the format. And then the Raz is obviously I'm just going to get jaded and everyone's going to tell me I'm a crap analyst because I only got like 3 picks right. So one thing I forgot to do on the last one of these, by the way, was actually show you not just like the picks I got, but like show you the screen. Because the problem is I still can't access that first phase and see the thing. I don't know if something bugged in the actual overlay, but I'll go and show you. So I can't do, for some reason, look, it just doesn't show me the Pick'ems one, but obviously I got that one fine. And then this one is the one where everything went tits up, didn't it, boys? Like, first of all, I took Heroic to be my 3-0. They were in the 2-0 game, but sadly they lost it. So they didn't manage to get that done. And then obviously they did make it through as one of the 8 teams, which to be fair, I had them borderline, so I don't deserve to get that one, do I? Now, big 0-3. I hope watching this major makes you understand why I picked big 0-3. Now, you're going to think, what do you mean? They were in like they were also in a game what they could have gone through. Yeah, but here's the thing. They could only win BO1s. There was pretty much no one they could beat in a BO3 in this part of the tournament. But they looked out in the BO1s. They got the wins they needed to. But all I'd say is this. Just go and look how people like Torin did perform. I told you they could never maintain that form. And they didn't. And it's sad that he still does peddle that whole thing of like, his whole shit's just like, I'm in denial and I'm like brave and clever and smart for just denying reality that I'm just really not as good at tier 1 online against the best teams, even though online I was all magical. Like, it's just like, here's the sad thing. Xantares was pretty good online against top teams. He just wasn't as good as he was online. Sirison drop-off's crazy to me. So, okay, whatever. Big was never going to get it done. To be fair, just making the major was success. Getting through the last phase was very good. So, yes, only because of the format were they able to do it. But I think you look overall, yeah, this is a pretty legit run by them. They don't have Farven. Let's see what they do when they get the real lineup. Then you go down to here. Now, it's obviously mad that I have 3 picks. Right, let's just start at the right-hand side first. We'll start with the most questionable ones because I do it in order. So NIP, I took a flyer on that one. There's a world where maybe they had a good tournament. They actually had a pretty shit tournament all in all. Most of the players had issues, whatever. Even Broland didn't do very well. What do you want? You had to pick someone questionable, right? I think people like Spirit were way less likely to turn up and suddenly do well, so whatever. Didn't get that one. Did get Cloud9. I was pretty sure they were getting through no matter what. I wasn't particularly worried about them losing games either. I think they're just such a sturdy team. To me, this was the obvious major. They've had a couple now where they gradually power up. I mean, you'll see in a minute from the bracket, I think they're going to the finals. Then you had Team Liquid. I don't hate that pick even still. I think Yekindar underperformed at the major and is having his own issues at majors. I think Elige didn't do very well. Aussie was good, all right. I think the problem is this team in general. I'm starting to wonder about the Nitro leadership angle because they're in a lot of these games and they're even in position in the veto where it's like they're doing that thing where they lose their own map pick so many times now. Like something's going a bit off with this team. I still think in general it was obviously better to add Yekindar, but people who thought that was like the magic bullet, I think you're a fool. That type of player was never going to be from that role in no universe. So keep your copium on up. So I told you I wasn't riding with this team to be an elite team. I just thought they should have been a playoff team at least. This is very underwhelming. Then we got Vitality. Oh, I noticed how, like, look, I'll never hate putting Vitality here. Just having Ziwu alone should mean there was a world where you could have been in the playoffs. But the problem is, even he underperformed. Like, spoiler, I did that video. Go watch it. Like, he just underperforms at a lot of the big majors and prestige tournaments. And his teams do not go that far. Like, here's a stat and a half for you. Since Ziwu has been playing at the tier 1 LAN level, so we're talking about basically 2019 onwards, there have been 5 majors. And in 3 of the 5 majors, there was no French player in the playoffs of the major. Ziwu is French. You do with that what you like. Then you go over to Outsiders, one of my correct picks. I had them all day long. I thought they were going to be a tricky team. There's a world they could be in the final. I think they're going to at least be in the semi-finals. Pretty interesting pick. I always was pretty confident in that one. Na'Vi, I mean, you would think on paper, just a roster like that can't fail at this stage. I know they can because what you saw with G2, but I think Blade's too smart. I think Simple's too good, unlike Ziwu in the sense that he's not going to bomb out here. Simple's had the odd big prestige tournament where he bombed out, but even then he usually fragged out. So I was pretty confident that was happening no matter what. Phase 1 is still inexplicable, quite frankly, especially because like they certainly didn't play well at this tournament. But the worst part is, if people don't know, They didn't just lose in overtime on the third map against Bad News Eagles. They were in a very dominant position. They were up like 15-7 or 15-8 or something and managed to lose to overtime and then lose in overtime. And even in overtime, I think they let B&E get like, what, 2 different series points? So that in itself, like, look, they did deserve to lose that best of 3. I think the format's whack. Like, I don't think there's any university would have lost 3 best of 3s, even in this form. But okay, not good. You go and look at how people are performing in the tournament. Yeah, a bunch of them didn't play that great. Guess what? Rain isn't just going to perform every single time at the big tournaments. He's done it a couple of times this year, but I told people when they were overhyping that angle. Yeah, in general, look, it's been an up and down major, pretty sad, but whatever. So there we go. I'm actually still shocked I only got 3. Like, when I look at this now on paper, like, FaZe should have been a lock, so that would have been 4, and I need 1 more. What? And not 1 out of Team Liquid and Vitality is going to make it. I'll admit, I took a flower on the nip one, but not 1 out of Vitality and Liquid. Like, here's one of those times, by the way, I don't particularly care that I'm not going to get the fucking diamond coin. By the way, technically, if you know about alchemy, gold's the best, isn't it? That's the most valuable. That's the most pure. That's the most important of all the elements you could have. Diamonds, they're just artificially scarce, aren't they? They're not even actually of that much real value unless you're using like a laser or something. So let's laser in on the playoffs and have a look at that, shall we? Oh, and by the way, we should talk about the teams that did go through. So Furia, mad overperformed, but again, who the fuck did they play? Like, some of these draws are pathetic, but okay, I don't think they've done much yet, but somehow they've got top 8. Fnatic, I think that one was inexplicable. I mean, they even were whack against outsiders in this tournament, but somehow they've gotten through. Fair play to them again. I don't really know that I thought they'd beat that many good teams, but, I mean, look, well played by Mezzy. People like Roy and Crimson seem like they're doing half decent at times. You go and look, Fascia still hasn't come online, which is a problem for playoffs, probably. Mouse, I mean, I'm just shocked at that. Fair play to them. I've doubted them every step of the way. They managed to come through. They did have some big performances in the playoffs, in this stage where I did think they would fail, and they got through the top 8. I don't think they can do much more, but fair enough. Ents didn't get through. Bad News Eagles didn't get through. That's why you don't want big upsets, by the way, guys. They're the ones that put out Vitality and FaZe and then did what? Just immediately lost themselves and let some other team go through. Brilliant. Who cares about that? And then Sprout, like, actually weren't as good as I thought they were going to be. I thought they'd have a little bit more fight in them, quite frankly. So, yeah, that's the way it went, right? Spirit, I'm just genuinely impressed. Like, if 17-year-old Wonderful could play like that, then yeah, I guess it's possible. Patsy already is really good. I think in general, people like Chopper have mad overperformed. I still don't think they're that good a team overall, although I actually saw some half-decent T-side calls. I just think they're fragged out on the CT side. So, look, that'll give them a fighting chance. Their problem is, I just don't really feel like they can beat a team like Heroic, so we'll get to that. So let's look at the bracket stage now. So we've got Outsiders versus Fnatic. This has already happened in this tournament. Outsiders absolutely shit on Fnatic, and Fnatic just looked really woeful on their T-sides and just couldn't close them out on. Overpass, they looked whack, and then on Mirage, they could just get entries, and then they would just lose over and over to the retake. So I have to say, it's not just because of how it played out then, but I heavily favour Outsiders as the better team. I think Fnatic did well enough to get to this point. I don't believe on the big stage, Mezzy and some of the younger players, Nikodos, etc. I know, like, Nikodos has been in the last couple of major playoffs, but I don't think they're going to hold up in this scenario. Whereas actually, I think Outsiders, I don't know about Fame, and he's been the big fragger, but people like James and Flit, I trust they will perform in this particular phase of the tournament. And actually, I don't think James gets rattled by big games. If anything, I think he settles into it and has a great time from it. So I expect Outsiders actually to quite cleanly take this one, probably even 2-0, and have them going there. I think they even have a real chance to go to the final. Mouse against Cloud9, I think, is an easy one for me. If everyone on Mouse frags out, I think if you look at the map pool, they are all right. Like, they could take a map off Cloud9, but I think Cloud9 is a significantly better team. I think it's the perfect team in bracket, by the way, to not have any real fear put into you, and especially not against Mouse. Like, if you'd have playing against Heroic or Outsiders immediately, or Na'Vi, maybe even Furia, because of the factor that it's not that the crowd would cheer for Furia, but they would cheer against you, that might have been able to rattle Cloud9 a little bit, and Furia at least has the firepower. I don't think Mouse can do it. Like, let's look at the players. Like, Toshi, there's no way he can handle Shiro. She was just a much better player. Axile, who we compare him to, Exertion. Axile's a significantly better, greater player. Who are we going with beyond that? You know what I mean? Like, we're running out of players on their side. What is Dexter? I mean, look, maybe he could frag better than Nafani. I think it's even debatable, but sure, he's done it in this tournament. But is he a better IGL? I don't think so. So I'm putting Cloud9 all day. I think this is great. I think they go to another semis. Remember, it's Gambit, they were in Stockholm semis. This time they've obviously got a very good chance to go all the way to the final. Let's just do that now, shall we? So obviously, I could go either way on this one. Like, I really do think with this bracket, it's probably the best possible chance for outsiders to make the final. I think if they'd met someone like a Heroic, might have had a tough time. But I think this is the right bracket for them. But I'm going to say the problem is, even though that whole thing of their map pool, like they don't know what their map pool is and they can win on any old map. Yeah, that's true. And they're going to be a real test for Cloud9 if Cloud9 plays them. But I think Cloud9 overcomes this test. And I think even though Jim is a better IGL maybe than Nafali, actually I'd say he is. I think overall the firepower is too much on Cloud9. I love the diversity of the stars, like what different roles they do and how they all fit together. And Intis is just such a banger support player. Like someone like Norbert can't compare to someone on that team. So my problem is I think the players are just better pound for pound, individually. I think the only advantage you have is I think Jim is a better IGL than Nafani. But I think that Shiro's a better AWPer than him. So I'm taking Cloud9 to win this one. I think Cloud9 is going to the final. I think like this is going to be a banger for them. I think the good thing is their map pool is really strong. I think they just stick to their strengths. Don't try anything crazy in the veto and win out. I think you can win your map and you can win the decider. You can get to the final. Then we go to Team Spirit and Heroic. Look, mad props to the Spirit. They've overperformed massively with the fragging like they have done in a couple of majors now in a way I never expected, but I don't totally believe that they can do it at this point in time. I think Heroic has them covered in the map pool. It's one of the worst opponents they can play at this phase, bearing in mind some of the other teams that were going through early. I think it's so sad for them that they've drawn them because anyone else that have a crack against, I don't think they actually have a real chance against Heroic. Sure, they might be able to potentially out-frag Heroic, but the style of Heroic is too good. Cadian is a very good IGL. I think he's going to absolutely out-call Team Spirit. The map pool's got it sorted for them. They're not going to go to their strengths. I think this is just as long as Heroic doesn't get too coy in the veto, I think they're going to take this all day, probably in 3 maps, but they're going to take it nonetheless. Then we got Furia versus Na'Vi. This is going to really show you, by the way, how nonsense that whole thing about like the crowd making the home team better. Furia has played absolutely fucking nobody in terms of winning matches. Go and look at last 3 months. Who's the good team that they beat in the last 3 months? As far as I can tell, it was Liquid, and they're a team that themselves hasn't won a tournament and hasn't been to this stage of the major. So you go back and look, they're just getting nobodies in RMRs, in stages at the major. It just, in best of 3 we're talking about, it just doesn't matter. Like, they haven't shown me they're an elite team. Keserato's a monster. Yuri's finally back to some of his best form from years ago. Like the rest of them, yeah, whatever. Art's had some pretty good moments at this major, but still seems a bit questionable as an IGL. Safe, just never been played around properly, so it's just whatever. Drop's not bad. Like, I don't mind them as a team. I think they're like a canny enough team. They just don't actually, it's just as individuals, they're good. In certain cases, very good in terms of Keserato. But as a team, I don't think the cohesion's there. The map pool looks a bit wonky, even though they always have those fucking smokes and all the tech. They just don't have like reliable maps they can win on. So in my opinion, Na'Vi murders them here. I don't even think Na'Vi's in that peak form. I think this is enough of a bracket, by the way, for Na'Vi to win the whole thing. So I'm having Na'Vi beat Fury. I think that's easy enough. Still a few problems on the Na'Vi side, but they've got Simple, mate. And they've got enough good players and they've got Blade. I think this is a dream, this bracket for them. I really think they're going to win their second major. They could have had 3 majors in a row, this means, which is wild. Then you have Heroic Na'Vi. I'm so glad we're getting this at this point in a major because I've wanted to see these 2 teams play in the bracket of a major, just like we did at the last one. Because Heroic, for some reason, against this Na'Vi core, has been the team, aside from Gambit Online, that has matched up the best against them repeatedly with consistency, no matter how Na'Vi's changed, no matter how their map pool's changed, no matter how the form of the players has changed. They just always give them a really good game and test them. Like, I feel like Cadian actually has a good sense for how to call on the T side against this squad. So I think this is a team where they've done such a good job. I do think the stage will get to Heroic a little bit. I think that might actually be the big factor here. I could see that making Na'Vi have more of an edge. I'm taking Na'Vi to win anyway, but I'm hoping this will be one of the all-time great series. And thankfully, it's in the semi-final of the World Championship. So I think this is a really cool one. And by the way, I'm not really considering a world where Heroic's going to the final, but if they did, hell, if they're going to play outsiders in Cloud9, they could win the major. If they play outsiders, I think they would probably slightly lose, unfortunately. But if they play Cloud9, I think they actually might even be able to win that. I think it could even be a really cool matchup. Be very interesting, like what happened with the online era. It's just I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm taking Na'Vi to win this one. Map pool angle, I don't even care about as much. It's about whether Na'Vi turns up. If Na'Vi turns up, they're going to win this match. Then we got Cloud9 against Na'Vi in the final. The whole like CIS battle at this point in time. I think this could be a really amazing final in theory. Cloud9 should be super powered up. The problem is, I don't trust them to hold their nerve. When they're in the final, I could see them losing on a number of different maps, getting psychologically down on themselves. I think if you're Na'Vi, you should know you have a huge psychological edge over them. I'm sure from scrims, they've got all the familiarity in the world, but they've never been in the final of a major. They've never really had all that pressure on their back. So I'd love to believe in the miracle, but I have to say, I think Na'Vi's winning that one. Na'Vi is winning the major. Simple's winning his second, and he's going to be the MVP as well.
Hey guys, this is Pimp here. I got another little trick for you guys. I heard about this channel on YouTube that has a lot of good analysis on it. You know, a lot of good points to be made. And fuck, I did it again. It's just Thorin's stupid YouTube channel.
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Hades GOUD, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Animosity, Butt Pounder 420, Jensen Goh, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Torin, and as always, special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my upcoming content? Maybe you want to ask a question in my monthly AMA. Would you like teasers to find out who the guests are for upcoming interviews and shows? Maybe you want to take part in one of those lengthy esports discussions with me that can go all over the place. Well, if so, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today, where, in the description box below, there's a Patreon link.